All right, welcome to our budget workshop, and if we can please call the roll.
Mayor Bright-Cruz.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hartman.
Here.
Councilmember Albritton.
Present.
Councilmember Jablonski.
Here.
Councilmember Kaczynski.
Here.
We have quorum.
Excellent, thank you. If you please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate that. It's always a sparse crowd for the budget workshop, but honestly, it's one of our most important meetings. So I do appreciate the folks that are able to come out or are watching on YouTube. We do appreciate that very much because we pride ourselves in being open and transparent and doing things the right way. And so we appreciate those that make sure we do that. So, all right. I don't know,
Mayor,
Russell, are you going to introduce this?
Yes, I'll start us off. So just wanted to say that...
I don't think you're on.
You're not.
Maybe I just need to get closer. Can you hear me
There we
now?
go. That's
All
better.
right,
Yeah.
sorry
Slightly
about that.
closer. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Just wanted to start off the workshop by saying that this is the second year under my administration that we're presenting to you tonight. This budget workshop meeting, and I'm proud to state that after months of really hard work from the staff, along working with council and department heads, and especially my esteemed colleagues in the finance department led by Town Financial Administrator Emil Lopez, Rich Shrum, Ariana DeRige, also represented here tonight, and the entire finance team. I'm very proud to present to you a budget workshop that will go over a balanced budget that we believe presents increased service delivery even over last year, while maintaining the goal of maintaining the millage rate and minimal increases that Emil will go over in the other line items. But very proud of the work that was put into this document and what we're going to go over tonight with you. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Emil and his team to present.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, the public who's watching, those that are here present. As the town administrator indicated, this is the fiscal year 25-26 budget workshop. What we have presented is a summary of what was presented on the preliminary budget that was approved back in July 24. We have taken directive from council during that meeting, have implemented those changes, and are bringing it forward to council and the public to see. So if that is in an indication and meeting the expectation of council, those will be brought back on the September 15 council meeting for the first hearing of the budget adoption process. With that, we're going to jump into the first slide. That's pretty much highlighting what we just mentioned here now. So we're going to the next one, which is showing the schedule that we follow in getting this budget adopted. We're in the second line, which is the budget workshop tonight. And as you see on the next dates, there are certain dates here that are not actually something that is going to be brought forward to council during the budget, but those are steps that are required in order for us to be in compliance with the state. This is showing the public of what the general fund budget, which is the main operating fund of the town or every municipality. This indicates where most of the funds are coming from. They are in descending order. As everyone is aware of, the biggest one of them is the ad valorem revenue. the next one? That's the next one? Okay, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. There's something that I want to share with the public as well. Okay, so as the town administrator indicated, this is a balanced budget. The operating expenses is, again, the biggest portion of it. The biggest percentage of that comes from the public safety contract, which accounts up to 60+% of the operating expenditure. That's $8.6 million. And if you take that as a whole, it represents about 39% of the total general fund expenditure. If we take that one layer down, public safety is over 80% of the ad valorem portion, which is on the previous slide, the 10 million. This is the summary that was presented to the public and council and approved back in July 2024. This is just a highlight of what was presented then. Again, no change in millage. It was proposed for a fire assessment increase of $65.16 on a residential dwelling, and a $0.1989 per square feet for the combined non-residential. And it also included a decrease on the acreage for the agricultural classification of 76 cents. For the solid waste, on a residential collection, it shows a $47.15 increase from the previous year. And as it's known to the public, our bulk waste is based on lot size. So what we did is that we calculated the average year over year, and that average is an increase of $101.12. Again, as it was indicated, highlighted back in July 26, that was a not to exceed rate, and we're just refreshing and going over essentially what was done back in July. With that said, as I mentioned earlier, this is one recommendation that was provided by council during that council meeting. It was that go back and show the council and the public what an amount would be should we use $500,000 to subsidize 50% on each one of the two assessments. And again, that's just highlighting that directive from council. We're going to, this is pretty much what transpired during that meeting. During the next three phases of the presentation, which is the millage rate, the fire assessment, and the solid waste, we're going to elaborate further on those directives. With that, we start with the millage rate. Again, we are maintaining the same millage as last year, which has essentially been the same if we include this proposed budget for the last 3 years. And what that indicates is that on every $500,000 of taxable value, this rate represents a combined $180 increase from the current year rollback rate of 3.5299. And again, those who are eligible for the Safe Our Home exception, their increase, they should not exceed 3%. What factors do we consider to be able to sustain the same millage rate while still increasing the level of services? Well, first, we are looking at the unemployment rate, which is projected to decline 3.9 in 2026, and currently about 4%. And also, economists project that there's going to be 2 cuts for the overnight rate of 1/4 percentage point in 2025, and 2 more in 2026, not 2025. It's 2026, which is going to impact the town interest rates earnings. Those earnings reductions or estimation were contemplated in this budget. And also, there's 3 aspects for which we do not have control of it. All we need to do is make sure that we keep an eye on it, and if there's any impact whatsoever that we foresee to be occurring or happening to the town, then we need to act accordingly. And those 3, the first one is the tariff, as we know. At first, inflation was not impacting, but now we're starting to see some of that, which is why the feds are contemplating reducing the rates earlier than had estimated before. And another one is the DOGE team that was created by the governor, and we already are receiving information and requests from that department, and we are complying with that information as we get them. And also the reshaping of the government, of the federal government from the main seat at the White House. And the big piece that actually allows us to continue is the fact that we keep the same millage rate, and although the rate is the same because of the increase of taxable assessable value of the property, the amount, the revenue that actually the town gets increases. And that increases by a little over 1 million if we compare it to last year. We have to have that in mind to the fact that there's a few of the town's contract that have calls for escalation increases, especially the public safety contract, which calls for 4.5%. That increases is utilized to maintain those services and those increases without having to impact the millage. Okay, so when we presented to council, and this is something that administration that we're bringing forward to council for consideration, when we presented the preliminary budget in July 2024, we have 10 capital improvement projects funded. These 2 we are bringing to council's attention because now we have confirmation that the town have received in writing the $900,000 for design and construction for the Emergency Operations Center. Because we have that confirmation in writing, we can include that into next year's budget. At the time, it was not. There's no millage impact, so we're letting council know that during the September 15 first public hearing, this one is going to be included into the 25-26 budget, thus increasing that budget amount by that amount. The second one, which we want to strongly recommend to include as well, is the town was awarded $405,990 for design and construction for the Southwest 160th Avenue Lanes project. That's the Dykes Road turn lanes. This project is inclusive of a requirement for the town to match in order to get it completed in the amount of $135,330. What we are included in the language is that it's going to come from unassigned fund balance. So there's no millage impact, but we need to get the directive from council at the time of adoption on September 15 that we're funding that from unassigned fund balance for the match for fiscal year 25-26. This is for transparency purpose. What we're doing we're taking this approach. And now we're presenting where does the town stands on the millage in comparison to the 31 municipalities That's with the 3.9, third place, Southwest Ranches, just behind Weston and Hillsborough Beach. This actually completes the list of the 31 municipalities within Broward County. Now we jump into the next one, which is the fire assessment. The first two portions of it is pretty much indicating the public and everyone how is the town allowed to get to this point and assess a fire assessment to the residents. And in tonight, what we are presenting is that 24 homestead properties are eligible, and the town continues to maintain that exception, and that amount represents $19,771, which is absorbed by the general fund. There's no impact to the residents for that. And the same applies to per Florida statute, that those land that falls into the agricultural classification are exempted, and that amount to $94,105, which is also absorbed by the general fund. As I indicated earlier, we're going to go, as this slide represents, as to what the changes are going to be based on the directive that was provided to us back on July 24. With that, we are showing that in 24 and 25, there was no millage, there's no rate change, no millage impact, and as directed to us back in 2025, there were no change year over year, with the exception of the acreage, because of that specific requirement. It actually went down a little bit. For what we proposed in July, with no subsidy, it was a residential rate of $823.79, $1.18.01 for the combined non-residential, and $85.73. To the right, you will see what that variance would have been if we were to adopt the proposed July 24 budget. Using the recommendation to council to utilize the subsidy, we applied that $250,000 to it, and now the year-over-year increase, it went from $65.16 to $16.83. And if you look to the right, to the left, it shows you what the proposed new rate would be. It will go from $758.63 to $775.46, and as indicated below, the acreage actually went a little further down, and rather than having a reduction of 76 cents, it would be now $5.95. This is essentially it's what was shown and explained in the previous slide. It's pretty much a general information what I just went over. The residential fire rate, the acreage, and the combined non-residential. This is more of essentially the same information that I've related when I was explaining that slide. And this shows, as is being practiced in these presentations, what the 4-year rate has been, and the proposed, which is 25-26 budget. This is for the residential and the acreage rate. And then, just as we did with the millage rate, this is what the town stand on the fire assessment. We are on the 25th out of the 31 municipalities, of which 25 are the only ones that are providing fire assessment. it's important to highlight that the town, it's a disposition, but the town applies a full cost recovery to the fire assessment. So there's no, some municipalities actually provides funding from the general fund. The town of Southwest Ranches actually is a cost recovery from the fire assessment. The next and final one is the solid waste assessment. As we indicated with the fire assessment, this is the first two portions of it is the language that allows the town to assess this assessment. And on this slide, it pretty much represents what was presented back in July. So this information here does not include the subsidy, but we want to be fair to those who are new or first time watching this budget presentation. For fiscal year 25-26, we estimated the cost for the solid waste to be $3.664 million. And this year-over-year increase, it's $432,000. But we need to be mindful that last year there was a subsidy utilized in the amount of $263,000. So if we were to do a year-to-year comparison, the increase would only be 5%, which is the CPI that calls for the contract. And the last two items is pretty much indicating, again, the same increase without that subsidy. The solid waste bulk average rate per lot represents an increase of $101.12 per parcel lot size. And for the residential, it's an increase of $47.15. And on the next slide, we follow with the solid waste cost per unit that was proposed, and the bulk waste average cost per lot. This is again more detail what I essentially went over before, which it represents the two amounts year over year. And it's also important to mention that the town continues to allow a 50% exception on disabled residents, for which this extension is going to impact the town in the amount of $7,221. Again, this is absorbed within the general fund. And now this is showing what the rate is going to look like if we were to adopt a subsidy in the amount of $250,000 for the solid waste assessment. For that, the new proposed rate will be $560.67 versus the $554.57 with a net year-over-year increase of $6.10. And the bulk waste average cost per lot is going to come to $722.63 versus last year's $674.43, with a net year-over-year increase of 48.20. And here it shows you what the new rate is going to be across every parcel lot, including the bulk waste. Again, as I mentioned before, the increase was calculated based on the average lot size for bulk waste. Here is showing under which category each resident will fall with the new proposed rate with the subsidy. And with that, we conclude our presentation, and we open to questions from council and the public.
Awesome. Thank you, Emil. Really appreciate you and your staff and all the work that goes into this. I know it's more than even the finance group. It's the entire team and all the departments getting it together and doing that. So great job as always. Looks good. Any questions, comments from the council? Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
We should all compliment you guys and your teams on doing a great job on this. The increases this year are very small overall, and a lot of that is due to creative thinking not creative accounting, but creative thinking. So I certainly appreciate. For 25 years, I've been sitting in this room hearing the proposed budgets of the various administrations and finance administrators. And some of them were colorful, some of them were interesting. But the thing I was always the most worried about is people with the white hair. Back then, 25 years ago, I wasn't white or gray. I mean, I was a young person, but wanted to look out for the seniors we have in town. Because, as everybody knows, Social Security is fixed. They don't give you an increase like you get on a job, hopefully every year. And I've always been concerned, and this is probably the best I've seen of all the years that I've been sitting through the budget proposals. And not only from my perspective and my lifestyle and my neighbors that I know well, but I think that the impact to our residents, particularly our seniors, is as minimal as I've ever seen. So I know you guys worked hard. There's a million things you could have come to us with good ideas and, you know, all of that, but you really kept the line on the budget. This is very impressive. Thank you all. Thank you to the teams as well that worked on this. I can't say enough. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim?
Steve, real quick, Emil, the whole team, staff, town, thank you. I'm retired. This really helps when the costs do not go up. I got my homeowner's insurance policy. It went up 14.7% this year. Last year it went up 12%. You know, at that cost alone, that'll run me out of town. But with the town's budget, and I think I can stay for a while, you know. So thank you, Emil.
Great.
Yeah, guys, great job. I do have a question regarding the fire assessment concerning, if you look on page 14, lands classified as agricultural lands without a dwelling or a farm building. What is considered a farm building?
What is considered what?
A farm building.
Fire building. Oh, farm building.
Farm.
It's something that is used, well, I'm just going to elaborate pretty much what the language actually says. That determination, when inspection is done, and I'm not addressing your question yet, when inspection is done, BCPA sends someone to the specific location, and through that review, they make that determination. I do not have details as to the specific criteria that they use to determine that, but I can certainly get the details of it.
Well, really, my question is, if you have vacant land and you're using it for cattle, whatever, sheep, whatever, and you put a container on it for feed and what have you, is that considered a farm building?
It takes into account not just the structure. There is specific language in the Florida statutes that calls that the structure cannot be over, if it exceed $10,000 of it, that then it does not exempt them from the agricultural exception. So there's more language to it than just the structure per se. It's inspecting the structure and then also the value that the structure derived from once BCPA determines that value. They base it on the land and the structure. If that structure exceeds that value, then it's not considered. And to give you a more precise information, I have that specific statute that I can find for you and just read it to the benefit of the public.
Yeah, the definition comes directly from Florida statute, section 193.461, so we can provide a more detailed description of what that is.
Yeah, it's nothing you gotta, I'm just raising a question.
We'll get it to you.
Out of curiosity more than anything else. What the definition is, it doesn't change anything.
Understood. We'll get you that clarity.
But you guys did a great job.
He's good.
Okay, those two guys did a great job.
Steve, I do have a quick.
They just woke me up right before the workshop.
When you're done.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Emil, I just had one question. On page 3, you call out the fact that the general fund, the total general fund, which I'm assuming is your total revenue, is 21,951,634. Does that equal the budget, or do we have some surplus?
No, the budget, the town of Southwest Rancho 25-26 budget, the total comprehensive budget is $31,327,305. The main operating budget, which essentially what funds the operations of the town, is the general fund, which is that 21 million that I mentioned. And the difference of that is the 9+ million come from transportation fund, the
Got it.
debt service fund, and the solid waste fund.
The other revenue sources?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead,
All
Dave.
right, Emil, thank you so much for what you're doing here. I'm looking at page 9, and I just want to address a concern of mine. Under paragraph 1, then you go to the numbers 1, 2, and 3. I'm concerned about paragraph 3, the aggressive efforts by the federal government. And, we heard in the news earlier in the year about funds being held at FEMA. And I know that we have had discussions here that we would like to keep the, available revenue at about 25% of our total budget, but it's higher than that. I think we need to keep in our back pocket a little safety revenue, because if we get hit with something and the federal government isn't there to pick up the tab on FEMA, it's going to fall on us, and it's a big concern for me and our taxpayers. So, just
Thank
mention
you.
my thoughts.
Thank you for sharing that information. We are extremely vigilant to those circumstances. We have gone back in advance and look at what the FEMA cost has actually, the town has incurred on the previous storms, to make sure we have a better picture of to what to expect. Of course, it's understandable so that what happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, it's not going to represent the same cost today. But to your point, Councilmember, we do have that requirement of that 25%. The town is currently over about 35%, so which is in excess of the requirement of the 25%. And in addition to that, in preparation for that, we also have a line of credit in the amount of $20 million, which actually, we wish, right?
Yeah.
That we can pull from. And on top of that, we have excess revenue within the solid waste fund, over $800,000, that we can pretty much just go and utilize as long as is specifically related to that. So I believe we always, I'm not going to say it's 100%, but we're doing the best we can with the resources we can to feel safe, should something were to happen, God forbid.
Thank you. With Aaron out there, it's a concern of mine. Thanks.
Understood.
Thank you, David. I want to add one comment as well. So one of the things that I think we need to think more and more about is I'm very hopeful through a lot of hard work from Russell and staff. I think that we are hopefully going to be able to bring to this council a proposal to buy a piece of property for a public safety building here probably in the next 90 days. And my concern is that is only step one, and that's not the most expensive step to acquire that property. And so we've talked over the last few years about the unassigned reserves and how to do, what to do with that. And, like in this budget here, we're allocating some of those funds to reduce the fire fee and the waste fee. And I support that, but I think that going forward, we really need to, we have a lot of projects that come up, and we dip into those funds to kind of make up the difference. And I think we need to start changing our thought process on that a little bit, because I think we need to start saving those dollars so that when we get to those construction costs, of course, we're still going to look for grant money. We're still going to look, we've got obviously a big project that we're hoping will generate a lot of funds that will be very significant for that, but that hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'm not saying, I expect it to happen, but, it hasn't happened yet. And so I think that we need to start weighing those projects that we're spending that money on versus this huge bill that is going to be looming over us, and maybe start drawing back on being so quick to use those funds on those other projects. They're all worthy projects. I feel good that the money we spent on those projects have been money well spent, so don't misunderstand me. But, I think we should have a goal for this public safety project to implement that project, to build that project, to put that in place and make it functional with no millage increase and no increase in debt. I think that should be our goal. It's going to be a challenging goal. I had the conversation with Russell, and to his credit, he's like, we can go for that goal. Obviously nobody is committing to say that's what's going to happen at this point, because there's too many what ifs. But I think one of the ways that we can help ensure that goal and be good stewards for our residents is to start drawing back and pulling back on what we're spending on some of these other worthy projects. But knowing that big project is coming down the line, I think it would be prudent for us to make that kind of that mind shift. Yeah, Bob.
Do we want to ask Emil and his team to come up with some sort of a goal? For the, do we want to ask the finance department to come up with a goal that we have a little contingency for the stuff that's going to come up,
Yeah.
but we target that amount of money for the end of the year that we can contribute for this year towards the public safety building?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. My thought was, along those exact same lines, my thought was that once we have the property nailed down, then at that point we can put a specific design together, and based on that design, we should be able to get a reasonable budget in place and a timeline in place. And then we'll have really the concrete numbers to know what it is we need to be saving, what we need to be setting aside, those kinds of things.
Yes,
but
but
you can never start too early. So
Right.
to your point, I
Right.
think it makes sense.
Good. So do we want to direct them to start assembling, or do you want to wait until we've got better estimates?
Emil, what's your thoughts on that? Is it too early? Can you put together some, I know, I'm not even going to ask you to put together a budget for the building of,
No.
the construction of the building and things, because we don't have a design, we don't have anything like that. But, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? I'll leave it wide open for you.
It's quite frankly, it's too many unknowns
Yeah.
to come up, because we will have to know, estimate a lot of pricing and construction costs in order for us to be able to determine. We can, if we can go back as to what construction of a fire station from a previous municipality was, we can accommodate that cost to today's cost and maybe have that as a starting point.
Okay.
I'm trying to simplify it a lot more than that. I think that's kind of where Steve would like to end up, so that we have something that we can really tie our goal to. But over the next 6 months or year, we're still going to be having excess reserves. Can we come up with a number on what we think those excess reserves would be for the year, and try to stick to that as best we can? Now, once we get our estimates in, we'll know, all right, we didn't need that much, but in any case, we'd still put it forward.
That is something that is certainly possible for us to determine what our excess for the fiscal year 2025 is going to be at this point in time, bring that to, distribute to council, and so we know. So should something come up from now till the end of the year, we will know what the impact would be to that estimated year-end balance.
Good. You guys comfortable with that?
Yeah, I like that. Rest of the council, good with that?
Mayor, if I can just add on to that,
Sure.
to get us closer to that goal and to kind of put that mindset for all of us, is that once we have that estimate of what we believe that excess might be that would be, kind of assigned to unassigned fund balance at the end of the year, perhaps you would consider setting a percentage of that number to be allocated specifically for that purpose of earmarking it for the fire station.
Yeah, I think, and once we have that number, I think that,
Right.
that percentage, but, just off the top of my head, I think the percentage would be pretty high for me, like 75, 80%,
Sure.
something like that.
But we still want some contingency for what happens that we never anticipated.
Yeah,
And I think
understood, but I'm
75 is
just
probably a
saying
good number.
that direction from council might be helpful to have, once
Yep.
we know what that estimate would be. Let's just throw in a round number, if we say it's $1 million, and you guys say, well, we'd like to allocate 60% of that to go
Right.
towards this building, then we know we have $600,000 that we're basically earmarking specifically for the construction.
Right, good,
And
good, good.
do we offer up all sacred cows like the, I don't want to call it the Uncle Gary Fund, but what is it called?
Lane,
Forfeiture Fund.
The forfeiture fund, yeah, I mean, I think those are the, we'll discuss those, but yeah, that's definitely on the table, I would say.
And please,
Agree.
and please
Uncle
let,
Gary.
be careful.
I know, we're treading on
and
thin
let's-
ice right there.
let's not use,
Softly.
let's not use that term, please.
No, we're not using that.
You mean the,
No, we're not using that other term.
Yeah.
All right. So we have public here. Let me just open it up to the public if they would like to make some comments on the
that was the
budget.
Forfeiture Fund.
There you go.
He gets his own copy.
I'll start it. Newell Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. Just a few notes. At the budget hearing last year, there's two things that I spoke with Emil to create. One is the size of the print. If you take a look at what the book is and the money that's in here, it's microscopic.
Save paper.
What?
To save paper.
No, it's a full page,
Oh.
and it's not using it. I had a very large magnifying glass that I've had for many years that I used to see this. So what we had there.
Yeah.
There's another one which I'll take up in a little bit that I had asked Emil to do, but it's one of my other things. Let's go to page 52. And since the executive branch is right at the beginning, I get to pick on Russell first. Okay. We got a new person going into his area, the general service manager, from engineering. But he wants a new person, a communications coordinator, which we've always had, and that was the assistant administrator, who, up until Andy left, was Russell. And he was also that lady's job. I see no difference in the use of that now. So since he has an assistant administrator, this person should be wearing that hat also instead of hiring an entirely new person, which is a form of empire building, which goes on. So I'd like for you to cut the communication coordinator out and make that part of the assistant administrator's duties. Because before, it was the assistant administrator and the administrator that took care of all of that, and the mayor. Okay. Now we'll go to the next one, which is page 93. Which is engineering. And if you'll take a look there, you'll see that the general service manager has been moved to the executive branch.
Keep going.
What? Can I
Continue.
continue on?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Try and speed it up, but continue on.
but we have a new person that is being hired. So you see the same number of people, but the empire in engineering is increasing. There needs to be a real look to see if we need another engineering inspector, because the other one is being worked to death. I don't know if it is or not, but you need to take a real hard look at that. So let's go on to 126. Let's see, what do we got here? Agricultural liaison. What are the specific duties and experience necessary for this position when the county and our code does all this now? Why do we need a specific agricultural liaison? I don't think we do. Especially since that person can give advice which puts the town at extreme liability. Just like our previous mayor did when he told on Mather Boulevard, go ahead and cut the trees. We could not do anything to that individual for cutting those trees because they were a member and the mayor said to do it. This person says, oh, you can do that. And we have the liability because we can't do anything about it. Anyway, think very hard on this agricultural liaison. And if at a very minimum, require a very high bond and insurance on this person. Okay, now let's go to 129. Okay.
You can turn that on. I'm going to, Newell does a lot of research on it. I want to hear what he has to say. So, and we've got a small crowd. I think we can.
129. This is the other one that I asked last year, and Emil came back with December's help and gave me a list of all the events and breakdown of costs and everything that equaled the amount on this one here, which is the, looking at the microscopic print, promotional activity town events. That's the 8th line down. There was supposed to be the breakdown of what those events and costs were budgeted, proposed budgeting. And it's not in here. Then we go to 130. Oh, come on. We have the program modification. This one here is basically informational. What and where is Broadwing? Can anyone on the council at this point tell me where it is and what it is?
Broadwing?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, finish your comment.
I'm
but
just
yes.
saying, just nod your head.
Yep, yep, for sure,
Okay, you know.
absolutely.
Okay, good. I don't. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's go to 135, 136. What we have here on 135 is program modification of $14,000. And on the next page, camera installs and upgrade, $14,000. That's $28,000 for the same project. So, is it $14,000 or is it $28,000 or is this a typo or what is it? I don't know. Just curious. And that's as far as I got before I burned out.
All right. Good job. Thank you, Newell. Always appreciate your comments. We will address them before the evening's out.
Jim Lapp, 28th Avenue. Okay, for months now, since we've been going back and forth with the trash guys, I've been talking about artificial intelligence. And inference now is coming up. These machines are now capable of teaching themselves. So Newell was exactly right on what he said and what he addressed. I never would have guessed he would have come up with what he came up with. But you got to think long and hard about that, because you don't have to raise anybody's assessment based on what he was talking about. If you just start implying or applying artificial intelligence now, it's going to work for you. It's going to learn, and it's going to learn from itself. In all the trials and tribulations you guys go through on a regular basis, you'd be crazy not to do it. And the damn garbage people that we go and see ought to recognize the same thing. Garbage back in 2011 was being addressed by Waste Management. All right, they got it all figured out. And now that the CPI is not what it's supposed to be, they're going to have to come back a little. But I think basically when we exposed them at one of the meetings with a breach of fiduciary and the fact that they weren't treating the investors properly, that's why I'm out of the stock. At one time I was totally the other way. But when I saw the monkey business going on with their numbers, I bailed. And that's what you're supposed to do as a accredited investor. But anyway, that's my way of thinking about it, and I hope you will think about it long and hard. And I know it's painful. I understand it. But it's what we have to do to keep up with inflation and all the other costs.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Appreciate the feedback from the public. I guess I definitely have comments about the staff. I don't know, Russell, if you want to have comments, but I'm definitely I'm comfortable addressing them.
Yeah, I mean, we've had.
Because we've talked a lot about
Yeah, we've
that.
talked a lot about them. Clearly, we'll answer any questions if you need any more clarification on
Yeah.
any of this, but I'm ready and prepared.
Okay.
so.
Emil, can you, I think the 14,000 is 14,000. There's no double there. It was just the same item when
Broken on
it
two
fell over to the
pages.
second page.
Correct.
I noted that mistake, and the one posted on the website is corrected. It's just that the one that we printed it and I handed to was not addressed. But that one page has already been addressed on the one posted online.
Okay.
Page 135, 134. He's right. It was 202, 101, 102, should have been the 202, yes.
right.
Emil, I got the one up right now on the website, and it still appears to be wrong.
I just asked this now.
Okay, I'm looking, okay.
Okay.
We can talk about it later, no big deal.
Mayor, to answer the pointed question about the 14,000 specifically, because
Yeah.
I think Emil's referring to a different number, just want to be clear. The $14,000 for the cameras, that project that Newell brought up is $14,000.
It's 14,000.
It bleeds over on the 2 pages because of formatting, so that's why it
Right.
shows 1 of 2, 2 of 2, but
Yeah.
it's $14,000 total.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's just.
And the Broadwing property is, if you go down, because probably a lot of people don't know what that is, so let's get that on the record. If you go down Griffin Road, if you were to go straight, at the very end, just before you get to US 27, it jogs to the south just a little bit. Well, if you were not to take that jog and go exactly straight, you'd be driving right onto the Broadwing property. It's the triangle property
Yeah.
out there.
Directly
Correct.
across from the cemetery.
Yep, that's what the Broadwing is. So let me just make a couple comments about the staff. I personally, and this is a conversation that Russell and I have had a lot, and I think probably other council members have had as well. In today's day and age, that has probably changed more than any other, well, probably more than any other function, to be honest, with all the different social media. And it's not like, that you can update social media once a month. I mean, social media changes on a daily basis, and if it's going to be viewed, if it's going to be looked at, it's got to be updated constantly.
Right.
And so social media is a piece, probably one of the single most common concerns or complaints that I get is, this happened and I never heard anything about it. Well, you'll never get rid of that 100%, but the more different channels that we can use to get the word out, the better we'll be and the less we'll hear of that. And it's not that we want to hear less of it, we want to communicate, we want people to know. And so that's there, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think there's a ton of stuff that when we look at our website, when we look at things that we could be doing on Facebook that we're not doing there, we don't really touch a whole lot, Instagram or X or any of those that we could be on. all those different ways we could be getting the word out. We're going to be doing the message boards out in front of here. That's really a focus of ours, is to increase messaging. And so that's the theory behind that. And I'll be honest with you, that is a position that I am very excited to see being put in place. I really am. I think it's something that is going to directly impact the residents of our town in a positive way.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
So my daughter does social media professionally, and she's constantly in a hunt for new content. And it's interesting because I'd love for her to talk to you guys at some point, Russell, because she's always coming up with new things for her company to use to keep getting the word out more and more, because that's the name of the game when you're trying to sell things. So at some point we can talk, but it's getting hotter and hotter because people are moving off of Facebook. They're moving on to other platforms. So if we just stay on Facebook and YouTube, we're done.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll miss
we've
a lot
got to
of
keep
stuff.
the attention.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, David.
And I know Newell probably, well, I know for sure Newell is not on any social media. But I have actually seen folks writing on some of these Southwest Ranches community web pages.
About Newell?
No, you're funny. No, but seriously, about, somebody reports a pothole. And, one of the council members say, this isn't an official page, but they will take care of it. I have seen that. But that's kind of what I envision for this position. Filling in those gaps, people assume that just because it says Southwest Ranches on a Facebook page, that it's an official town page, but it's not.
It's not.
And that creates a lot of problems for not only the town, for us. I have to go with this.
Yeah. And so then the other one is the engineering position, which I think we've been very fortunate to date to have the quality people that we have there that are willing to do the incredible amount of work that we're asking them to do. If you look at, I'm getting a lot more exposure the last 2 or 3 years as we've worked with the county and the incineration and all that kind of stuff, and I've gotten to know and I've had a lot more conversation with my peers across the county. And I'm glad Rod's not here tonight, because when I talk to them about their staffs and the size of their staffs and what they accomplish, I'm almost embarrassed, to be honest with you, for the size of the staff that we have and what we accomplish, and the fact that they're still figuring out, not anymore, but there was a time when they were still trying to figure out what a shovel-ready project was, and we already had 2 going and funded, and so we have an incredible staff, but we've got to treat them with respect, and I think this is one of the ways that we show respect and we show some level of appreciation for what they're doing, taking some of that workload off, spreading it out, because you can't do that forever. You're going to lose them.
Well, there's another piece to that too, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Speaking of mine.
Yeah. I mean, Rod is the town engineer, and when he's out doing inspections, he's not being the town engineer.
Right.
We're paying him for a very high quality, high level position, and for him to be out there doing something in a role that we can certainly better utilize his time and bring somebody in at a lower dollar, that makes complete sense to me.
Right. Yeah, it does. I mean, you want to maximize his value for sure.
Yeah. He's good.
Yep. And then the last position is the agricultural liaison position. And that is a position, I'll be honest with you, that we've kind of, there was a time where we really felt like we were being taken advantage of by the Broward property appraiser. They just, well, I'll leave it there. We just were not comfortable with the job they were doing. We had some meetings with them, and so at that time we felt like there was a real need for this position. We had some meetings with them. To their credit, they kind of cleaned up their act. They changed things around a little bit, and I think things are much improved at this point. But going through that process, we identified that there were some things, we talked to some of our neighbors, talked to Davy and things like that, things they were doing, and we identified some really shortcomings that we had here in the ranches as far as being able to support our agricultural community, which is obviously very important to all of us. Excuse me. And so through that process, we began to really think through, what is this position? Is this a full-time position? Is this a part-time position? And I'll be honest with you, just total transparency, there was a point where I was like, I'm not even sure it's a part-time position. And because things really were quiet and they were running smoothly. But looking back at what we identified, some of the work that really needed to be done, where we ended up with was that this is going to be a contract position. It's not an employee hire. It's a contract position, so that we can bring somebody in and they can kind of handle this backload of work and kind of test out to see what support they can provide to the residents. And either it'll come to an end when they finish that round of work, or we'll identify something that's ongoing. But it's not a new employee hired on. It's a contract that will be, we'll see. We'll see how long it lasts. So that's where that's at.
Mayor, you
Yeah.
said a backload of work. Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, I mean, things like when we looked at, we were going through that, we had, Davy has this handbook that kind of condenses all the agricultural type rules in their code. Obviously, the state of Florida ag, trumps it all. But beyond that, which it does have a summary of that in there as well, but beyond that, it has the unique things that are in Davy. We need to provide that for our residents here so that they have a handbook, so that they can understand what it is they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, to kind of cut down on some of the agritourism and things like that, nip it in the bud before it gets started. Some of those things. There were other things that, I don't know, Russell, you maybe.
Yeah, we identified the need to maybe establish some registries.
Right.
For instance, for veterinarians in the town that would be willing to be part of this program, so that if someone called in and had a large animal vet that they needed to see, who could they contact in the town that was willing to see livestock from the town of Southwest Ranches, potentially property owners that had potentially high ground, that they would allow other livestock to be brought onto their property if there was flooding concerns in the town where people could bring their livestock to. These were all obviously voluntary registries, but there's going to be a lot of field work that will be entailed in developing these registries, and so that's some of the items that were identified.
So it's a body of work that, I think will be good to accomplish and to get out there. And then the question is, after that's done, is there enough work to continue on, or
That's
not?
where I'm-
And that's why
where
we
I'm
did it
going.
as a contract person rather than a
Yeah.
hire, because I don't want to bring somebody on and then find out that the ongoing need is really not there, and then have to let them go. If they come on as a contractor to begin with, then they know that it's there's a limitation there, and we'll see where it goes. Yeah, David.
Newell raised a valid point with regard to the liability of any communications from this person. And I think and while I don't think it's something that we can address right here, I do think that should be something that when and if and when this person is selected, the advice element is either controlled, or somehow there's a backup to that advice element, something to that effect, that this person's communications to a resident will not cause that resident to act in a certain way that would be in violation of our code, but then say, hey, well, the ag liaison just told me I could do it. That's going to create a problem.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Wouldn't we want to have them, the liaison, contact BCPA and get them
Yeah.
sign off on anything?
Absolutely.
Before and then we sign off on it?
Well, I don't know, when you say we, I don't know, council, I don't
Administration.
expect that, but yeah, from an administrative standpoint, and that goes with any position, right? There's any position is like that. This is not unique. Any position here we're trusting our employees to give wise advice that is aligned with our ordinances and with our general practices, right? Any one of them could potentially give out bad advice and get us into hot water. But we've been very fortunate. We've got a great staff. That doesn't happen. And so we would, this person, we would need to get in alignment just like the rest of the staff.
Need guardrails.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
On that position.
100%.
So
Just want to call something out in terms of the importance of this position. Emil, I saw in, when you were talking about the ag exemptions, we have 3 acres less than 1,100 acres these days. I think it was 1097 acres that is still ag exempt within the town. That's probably half of what it was 10 years ago. Lots of our big lots have been cut in half, in quarters, in fifths, and those were big horse ranches. They were horse farms. Look at Circle S, that was a horse ranch 10 years ago. A lot of those are going away. And I think one of the motivations or one of the emphasis on this person is to help people not give up
Yeah.
their agricultural land, because we're 13 square miles, I believe. 1,000 acres is a drop in the bucket these days.
I know of one, that's an excellent point. I know one resident in town that bought a property as ag and fought the property appraiser. They bought it. It was ag before they bought it. They bought it intending to keep it, but they didn't really have a strong ag background. It's just what they love. And they went to the property appraiser, fought him for a couple of years. They're still doing plants, they sell and everything, but it's not ag anymore.
Yeah.
They just gave up.
People on volunteer.
Yep, they
Yeah.
just gave up. They're like, why? I'm not gonna spend my day fighting with them. I love what I'm doing. I'm just gonna do it. And it shouldn't be that way.
No.
It shouldn't be that. They're operating a business that should be valid for ag. They should get the benefit of that and the encouragement to do it more.
Shouldn't be
And so-
adversarial.
Yeah, so it's that kind of a thing that I think it's important to support our residents in.
I agree. I have
Go for it.
a change in questions here.
Okay.
Russell and I spoke about this. Page 134. You guys want to go to that? It deals with the utility vehicle for parks personnel. Is that the utility vehicle? Are you envisioning that as being roadworthy?
Potentially, if the question is it a small SUV or a small pickup truck, the answer is no. What we are envisioning is a gator-type
It's
vehicle.
a gator. How could you even
that-
question that, Gary?
You can title and plate and make it roadworthy, but
I object.
what we're envisioning is a smaller vehicle that can access areas that are typically
Inaccessible.
inaccessible. Thank you. I was struggling to find the word. To even the smaller SUVs or the smaller pickup trucks. So something like a gator that can get closer to the canal banks, closer to some of the wetlands, things like that, is what we're looking for. That maximum, capability.
Right, okay. No, I understand that. You and I talked about that. My question is, how does it get from place to place? From park to park?
So obviously, we have a couple of options. If it's something that is roadworthy, as to your question, we could certainly drive it there, or we could trailer it out to a site if we wanted to do that.
Well, that's what I'm driving at. If it's not a roadworthy vehicle, then that means you got to take one of the pickup trucks. We got to get a trailer for it, then we got to put it on the trailer and cart it around. So I don't know if we're accomplishing a lot with that, as opposed to getting a smaller. I'm actually advocating something that costs a little more than this.
Right.
A smaller pickup truck that's
Yeah.
bare bones.
Yeah.
To, instead of that can be roadworthy and go from place to place and go to the same places if there's not a weight problem.
Or a higher-end gator type of vehicle that can be
Registered.
Yeah.
That
Get a
was
John
my
Deere.
original question.
So so Councilmember, just a couple things, if I may. One is we do have a trailer already, so it's not like we have to buy a trailer. We have a trailer right now that's capable of towing something like this or carrying something like this out to a site. That's right there in the back, right in
No,
back
no,
of Town Hall.
understand.
We have something like that already. So that's one. Two is we haven't officially decided on an actual vehicle yet. That's something that we've discussed. We in speaking with our Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Director, the preference is to get a gator-type vehicle, again, for the reasons enumerated, to get to places that might be inaccessible, even for a small pickup truck. So I would tend to go with the director who's going to be utilizing and who has the idea of what it is that she needs. I would tend to, support that. Certainly, if you'd like to hear from her and you want me to bring her up and ask her those questions specifically, I have no problem asking December to come on up.
Yeah, let's do that.
December, would you come up, please?
She got the hot seat. She got the hot seat.
I'm asking for a tool. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you. Your questions, I understand very well. I do want you to recall that there were years in the past when we had use of these kind of tools because they belonged personally to some of the personnel who used them. When we purchased that trailer quite a few years ago, I purchased a trailer that can tow a vehicle like that because I had a Kubota. And I used my trailer to tow the Kubota around to various events, and when that was no longer available, I moved to an apartment. I can't store that stuff anymore. Gave it away to other people, but the trailer that we have is perfectly capable of towing that, and we use that thing all over the town. Mostly what I'm looking for is a vehicle that I can use to tow the arena drag. We have 2 arena drags right now that basically took the life out of the transmission of my Kubota. And the only person that I could give it to was somebody who could fix it. So Lee Lester has it, and he still has it in use. But, the vehicle that we get needs to be beefy enough that it can tow against the drag of the arena. We use that once a year for sure for the horse show, but we could use it a lot more. We have the staff who can do it, and that's a main reason. Now I've got people that ride these kind of vehicles out in the middle of the Rolling Oaks Park and dump stuff. I'd like to be able to get a vehicle out there when it's wet and soppy and, to be able to go and pick stuff up. I might not be able to do that in a little Frontier or whatever, so that's the reasoning.
So you're not, okay, so just to reiterate, if you had your choice between a small light-duty pickup truck and a off-road Kubota or Gator, you would rather have the off-road?
Yes, I would. And another thing is, we take the town pickup trucks along the C11 canal. We've got pickup out there for trash 28 times a year, and that's not always enough. And sometimes, even last couple of weeks ago, Gilbert and I are spending hours out there picking up some trash when it's, obvious and terribly necessary and not the right week of the cycle. It'd be nice to have a vehicle that could snip through those little cuts in the guardrail so that we don't have to go miles out of our way to get back to wherever the trash was. Those kind of things are what I'm envisioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 20,000, is that based on actual, that you went out and looked out for?
We went through the town's procurement officer who hooked us up with cooperative purchasing contracts where there are companies that sell these things, and we looked at 3 different kinds of vehicles, including a kind of a golf cart kind of a club car, which really doesn't meet our purposes, and a Gator type vehicle, and then I can't remember the actual brands. They're in the backup in my folder. If you'd like to know what they are, I'd be happy to share that information with you. But basically, in my mind, was the standard of the Kubota that had 4-wheel drive, could make it through 2 feet of water without bogging down, and could tow enough to drag an arena.
You looking at a 4-wheel Gator or a 6-wheel Gator?
I'm not even aware of a 6-wheel Gator. As you guys might recall, when a resident was leaving our town and they had a little motorcycle type of a thing that we could pick up for a song, we were hoping to get that, and we would have used that this way, and we would have seen how well that could drag the arena, and we were going to get that for very little money, and I don't know how far that would have gotten us, because that was essentially a little motorcycle, but a vehicle that could be drivable would be better. that could drive on the trail. You could take it, you know.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the price of these utility vehicles, other than what I see in the front of Home Depot or,
It's expensive.
Yeah.
When
It's
we
like
bought-
25 grand, the one they have at Home Depot
Yeah.
there.
When we bought the Kubota in 2002, we paid $10,000 for it. In 2002, that's 20 years ago. So, or more than 20 years ago. So, I mean, we got real numbers from companies that sell these kinds of things to cities, other places. That's where we kind of did the math.
okay. Answered my question, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, December.
Yeah.
Okay, come on up, Newell, quickly.
I ignored this session because 2 pages after this item right here, you see the drag that she wants to buy. We have relied on taking care of this equestrian park rinks on volunteers all of these years. And sometimes it needs to be dragged and we don't have a volunteer to drag it.
Right.
By having the 4-wheel drive little machine and the drag, we'll be able to get into there and get into the corners. Well, if we had a pickup truck, we'd only be able to do about 2/3 of the rink. And so we need that drag in order to take care of the rink in a proper manner. And it needs to be done more than once a year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, real quick,
Yeah.
Davy or some of the others, do they have these? Or do you know? And if so, whoever they buy them from, could we piggyback off them? I know we piggyback
Yeah, I think that's what
a lot
December was saying she was
off
already
of-
doing.
Yeah,
That's where she's getting her pricing from.
okay,
We didn't ask the cities, we asked the companies that sell to them.
okay, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Any other comments from the staff?
I'm sorry, no, I just want to thank the town council for, first of all, being available to spend the time with us individually when we had our one-on-one briefings with you guys. That direction is always, you know, it's immeasurable how beneficial it is to Emil and to myself as far as what your priorities are. So I want to thank you all for your patience. We look forward to presenting the final budget to the town council on the first budget hearing on September 15th, which is, I won't mention it, but it's somebody's birthday. I won't say who.
Wow, what a shock that is, having a meeting on this person's birthday.
And then the second one will be on the 25th of September. So look forward to those meetings. We'll have, if there's any questions that council or the residents have, if you want to have any in-depth discussions about the budget, have any questions that you have that are unanswered tonight, we'd be more than happy to meet with you and go over those. So, thank you,
Great,
Mayor.
great, thank you. And so, thank you again to the staff, to all who put this together. I want to close with one final thought. And when we formed this town 25 years ago, there was a real question about whether we would be financially viable as a town. And here we sit, 25 years later, which you saw it, the third lowest millage in all of Broward County, with minimal debt that hopefully will go away in the next 12 months, great reserves, a great staff that puts together, you know, financial plans that we can all read and understand, where auditors come in and they do their job and they leave with glowing reports. And I just like to, you know, yes, we will, you know, as a community, this is certainly the council does their part, the staff does their part, but the residents do their part. They keep us honest. They you know, this is, we had a vision for this town to be rural, to be open space, and now that's what's created the jewel that we are today, is that vision. And it's why the property values go up so much. It's why we get the extra revenue without having to raise taxes. It's all coming together, folks. And it's awesome to see, and it really, I just want to take a moment to just recognize the work that everybody's done, from, you know, council staff, but the residents themselves in all the ways that they made this possible. This was a great vision. It's here. We're living it. We're experiencing it. And it's awesome to see. And it's very rare that I don't go to a meeting, and because people still don't really know me. And they'll say, "Who are you?" And I'll say, "Mayor of Southwest Ranches." Oh, I wish I could live out there. You know, if I could redo it. So be proud of what we've accomplished here, and let's keep it up and let's go at it.
Sure.
Great. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Motion to adjourn.